Welcome into Rounding the Bases, the podcast about culture and leadership with a baseball twist, presented by my friends at Community America Credit Union. I'm Joel Goldberg, and we're getting ready to wind things up for season 6. A couple more episodes to go, then some best of the season episodes. Then we got the holidays, and then it'll be on to season 7. Already booking guests for January and February. As for today's episode, healthcare was, is, and always will be about people. What isn't, right? It was when my guest today, Brian Whorley, saw an opportunity to modernize the payment experience that his company was born. As the founder and CEO of Paytient, Paytient, Brian's objective is to remove cost as a barrier to care, making it more accessible and affordable than ever. Paytient now lives at the intersection of medicine and financial services, where it's making a meaningful impact on countless lives. Thanks to his reimagined approach, a financially healthier system is within reach for millions, so your only focus when you need care is getting well again. That's sort of the simple explanation of how a guy that was an engineer ended up in a totally different world as an entrepreneur and much more. And so I'm happy right now from, I believe, the Columbia area, maybe Columbia, Missouri area, joined by Brian Whorley. Brian, how are you?
Hey, Joel, great to be here. You're right on, Columbia, Missouri.
In Columbia, native of Springfield, Missouri, and a guy that had a great background in engineering ends up in healthcare. I love this because the journey so rarely goes as planned, but yours definitely did not go as planned. How fair is that in terms of assessment?
It's very fair, very accurate. But you just enjoy the journey, and that's what led us to chatting together here today. So can't complain, and wish the same for everybody else.
Yeah, got to give a shout out to a mutual connection of ours, Barry Sandweiss out of St. Louis, who
Appreciate
connected
it.
us, and he does a great job of connecting me with a lot of people like you. Are you? We'll talk about Paytient here in a moment. Are you an engineer at heart? Are you an entrepreneur at heart? Both? How would you describe yourself?
Entrepreneur at heart. Always have been. When I was a little kid, I was mowing lawns and doing all those things, to sort of supplement a non-existent allowance. And so, I just love the idea of helping other people and, turning that into a livelihood.
And this livelihood turned into a lot having to do with entrepreneurship, software, certainly the engineering background as well. I'm willing to bet that you did not grow up thinking one day I'm going to take a stab at solving healthcare. Most kids probably wouldn't grow up that way, but now you've got this. I don't know if niche is the right way to describe it, but you found something. You hit on something, not just you, but your partners as well, and it seems to have clicked. Let's go back before that in the journey, though. And you have an engineering degree, University of Missouri,
Yeah.
and you find yourself going down that route and essentially just not enjoying it, right?
Yeah, no, I think engineering is an incredible discipline. It kind of trains you to think creatively about problems that you're faced and sort of come up with solutions to those problems. And there's no more sort of urgent or impactful problem, I think, in our society than helping people to better access and afford care. I came out of school, worked for some great engineering companies like 3M and others. Very, very proud of that and proud to work in companies who put quality first. Through one way or another, ended up working in a hospital way back in 2006 or 7, and just fell in love with, the mission of helping people to feel better. It's a place that people in our community, friends, family, and neighbors turn to in times of need, and took really great pride in being on that team and helping to care for folks in the community. And just one thing turned into another, and saw an opportunity, and here we are.
Well, before we get to that all coming to fruition with Paytient, you had taken. I know that when you and I met, you told me you had taken a stab already at a version of this business, so to speak, and kind of ended up back here. The first rendition, if that's the right way to say it, was not regarding healthcare, but you were designing software and getting an early peek at this, right?
Yeah. I think so. Paytient is really a kind of real second venture. And back in 2000, prior to joining the hospital, myself and another guy here in town in Columbia, we created some software completely unrelated to healthcare, is for the restaurant delivery space. And so back in 2006, 2007, we created a software platform that ultimately kind of was ahead of its time and in the right place at the right time. By 2014 or so, we had 1 million people using the software, and someone came and acquired that from us. And so that experience of building that, software business really sort of informed this idea that we could do that, and that we could create software, put something out in the world that people use and reuse and love to use, and kind of help change the way the world works in some very small corner of it. And kind of gave us the confidence and capital, honestly, to then sort of, when the next opportunity came along, to know that we could put our arms around that and create something out in the world.
Did you get some of that bug, so to speak, when you had that success with that
Yeah.
first company? I mean, was that you said you've been an entrepreneur since mowing lawns and doing all that type of stuff as a
Yeah.
kid, but was that big taste of saying that this is where I want to be in some form?
Yeah, that honestly was the first kind of home run, that we were hit. It's the first time that we realized, that hey, when you combine something that you're good at, and then you also see sort of the accomplishment with it, at the same time, that you're it's the right place, the right time, and the right way. You're doing something that you enjoy doing. Gosh, it kind of, you can see that sort of manifesting sort of out there in the world. Putting lives on platform, helping people to use it. It's just such a cool experience to create something and see it out in the world and see people using it. And so that then translated into, well, hey, gosh, let's just do that again. Like, that was the funnest thing that we've ever did, like personally, professionally. We just want to do that again, just solving a much larger, more important problem to society. And so when we kind of saw a window of an opportunity back in 2018, we decided to, get the band back together, reunite, and know that we could, tackle something even larger this time.
Well, I mean, when you're trying to tackle healthcare, that's about as large as it gets, and that's certainly an element of our lives in the United States that is, I don't know, never quite been right in our lifetimes, and
Yeah.
it's hard to imagine that it's ever going to be right. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I remember you telling me that in the middle of that first venture and Paytient was some time at a hospital, in part, I think, if I remember correctly, because you said you had a child on the way and
Yeah.
benefits and all that
Yeah.
type of stuff. But it sounds like that sort of opened up some doors, maybe not in terms of ideas of how you could take those skills with your partner and, as you said, get the band back together again. So what did that, I don't know how many years it was, but what did that stint of working at the hospital, what were you doing there, by the way? And then how much did that sort of lead you down this path?
Oh, it was the path, for years and years, over a decade. I we had started a business prior to working in the hospital. My wife and I were expecting. And so, gosh, uh, accepted a full-time position, started working there, just really fell in love with the place and the people, the mission. And then just kind of, I don't know that you could spend, a week or a month or a quarter inside, a large business and not see opportunities for, unserved need or ways to serve, in better ways. That was really the role for a number of years, was, trying to just help us, take care of people differently, better, more efficiently. That sort of culminated over the years into, larger and different roles that, always were challenging in different ways. Um, and so, I just kind of kept looking, after we had the sale of the software business sort of outside the hospital, kind of kept my eyes open for, what's the next sort of thing? What's the next big thing to do? I want to sort of create another business again, and kind of thinking about, what's a way to stay in healthcare, this industry we've come to love, creating a meaningful impact out for people. How do we solve a real sort of societal need? How do we help people access and afford care? So to kind of take all that sort of passion for helping people live healthier and better lives. How do we roll that into opportunity that's urgent and felt, and how do we build product in a way that really helps employers, health plans, patients, providers, helps everybody sort of work better together and solve a real need out there.
And I mean, I sense you're a very forward-thinking guy, just with your, I think, creativity and your background, but yet you're doing that in a field that is has always been very comfortable with the status quo. It's a gross generalization, but look, everything is always easier when it's going well, at least for those that are making the money, to just leave it as is. And in many ways, it sounds to me like you're turning things upside down, which benefits so many of the consumers. How challenging of a task is that, or what was the mindset as you went back to your old partner and said, hey, I think we could do something here and follow in the path of what we did before?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's no doubt that healthcare broadly is a really important part of our society. It's always a part of the human experience. Ever since the dawn of time, society has valued its healers, all over the world by different names. So it always will be part of the human condition, the human experience. And so what we're doing is essentially, helping people to pay for care, helping people to better access and afford care. That, like, everybody loves their doctor and their nurse. That part of the journey, we're not providers. You do not want us helping there on that aspect. But, the part where too many people too often struggle, where there's preventable financial harm, is as it relates to paying for healthcare. And so for us, what we wanted to do was come in and step into the world with a product or a service that just helps the system as is sort of work better. And so we really approach the problem from a position of passion and compassion and concern, and sort of, we want to help the existing system work better, from a place of compassion for others, and desire to help broadly sort of employers take care of their people, help providers see more people, and rightly get paid when they do so. We want to help insurers differentiate and improve their products. And so we come at it from a sort of service oriented posture rather than an antagonist sort of posture. And I think that differentiates us from the typical sort of startup that's coming in and saying, gosh, we're going to disrupt this whole thing, and this evolve or die sort of perspective. That's the wrong way to approach that. And we come at it with very much of a service oriented approach. And how can we best help the most number of people in the most felt and impactful way?
The website is paytient.com. Again, there's a Y in there, so Paytient, patient.com. And when you go to the website, first and foremost, removing cost as a barrier to care. Paytient is an employer or health plan sponsored payment platform for medical expenses alongside any health plan. Paytient enables every member to access care earlier without financial harm. The mission: Paytient enables employees and health plan members live better lives by helping them access and afford care in a way that is financially healthy. That makes so much sense in, again, a world that oftentimes is confusing, maddening, and scary for a lot of us consumers as well. How quickly, Brian, did you realize, hey, I think we're onto something, not just the idea, but the results?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good question. So we started the company in April of 2018. Dale and I kind of built product throughout the remainder of 2018. We figured out the path to market, talked to some early, friends and family and folk in order to say, gosh, should we totally crazy? And some of them said yes, but we built the product and put it out there. It was really probably in the third month that we were sort of had the opportunity to serve sort of 500,000 people or so. Um, and our signal for, hey, we may be onto something here is the sort of reuse rate. And so when someone uses Paytient the first time, or when they think if you go to a restaurant for the very first time, if gosh, 70, 80, 90% of those people who go to a restaurant come back to that restaurant, well, gosh, it must be some tasty food or great service or something. And so when we began to see that those kinds of statistics of like folks who use the product come back to use it again, people like that experience, and then just honestly, they just unsolicited sort of like feedback that we get, like comments that folks send us from the app, from their experience, telling us, hey, thank you very much. Like this solved the need for me, for my husband, for our family. This helped me to, get our prescriptions, et cetera. Like sort of kind of looking at the reuse rate and then the sort of, just verbatims or the sort of, love that we were receiving back from consumers. That's those two things together at that same time, that early on, in an early version of the product. That's atypical, and it's a strong signal that, hey, we may well be on something here. And then combine that with sort of the size of the sort of opportunity and the amount of pain that's out there in the world that we can sort of resolve or make better. And I think that that's why we attracted very far-sighted sort of investors to come to the table, and they're like, hey, we've seen these signals before. We're looking for those kinds of signals. And so, you're a team who's done this once before. Gosh, we think that you can do it again in sort of a much larger way. And so we were very fortunate to find very far-sighted investors with high conviction for helping people to better access and afford care.
I wanted to ask you about that too, because you did really well in terms of the money that you were able to raise very quickly. I think you told me $34 million over the last couple of years, coming mostly from the coast. And I thought it was interesting that you said to me that there was maybe a bit of a revelation in terms of the success that you can have coming out of the Midwest or in a smaller area. You're global in terms of your employees and virtual, and I want to ask you about that in a moment.
Yeah.
But what did you learn through the process in terms of raising this money and being able to tap into the coasts? As well as I do. I mean, you grew up in Springfield. I've been in the Midwest for the almost 40 years of my life, the bulk of my life. And we sometimes can have a bit of an inferiority complex. Now, I grew up in Chicago for a while, high school, less of it there than maybe we have in this part of the country, Kansas City, St. Louis, Columbia, Springfield, and all of that. Yet you found a lot of success. What did you learn from that process?
Yeah, there's been different learnings across, each of those different years, 2018 and 2019. The world's changed even since then, as the earliest, were different learnings along the way. So, the very first investors were, out of St. Louis, Barry and others there at Cultivation, and then, Light Bank out of Chicago. Incredibly grateful to them for sort of having, high conviction, super early on into our journey, where we just had those early signals of user love and sort of reuse rates. And then we were able to, be good stewards of capital raised and put that to work very efficiently and grow sort of our presence and our ability to serve, more people. And then just sort of as the business got larger and really a function of the team that we're able to add into the company, that just sort of affirmed that we're in the right place, the right time, in the right way. And so we're able to, bring other investors, welcome them into the company. And mostly those were coastal based folks. Yeah, super early on, 2018, 2019, more difficult than it was today to raise capital, particularly from the coast. Missouri was like, where is that? What are you doing there? Gosh, I've never been there. Is it possible to build, a venture-backed business to sort of achieve the kind of scale that you need to achieve to sort of, that folks are kind of looking for there. That was difficult. We had an offer to, early on when, to actually move the company to San Francisco. Sort of, term sheet was conditional with that. And we said, no, we at the time just didn't think that we needed to do that. Our team was local, providers we're working with are local, our employers were here local. As you opened up, healthcare is, very local. And in fact, it's more than local, it's personal. And so the fact that all the right pieces that we needed in order to sort of, have a nucleus of opportunity here to prove out all that was right here. And we wanted to, and so we turned that down and we're able to bring others early into the journey. But over the course of time, and particularly with, honestly, the pandemic and sort of the world changing into a remote sort of first sort of operating model, it really leveled the playing field. It put Missouri kind of, at the same sort of level. Everybody was everywhere. And so when we were out raising, the first question was like, hey, where are you in the world, today? And, to say that, oh, I'm calling in from Columbia, Missouri, I don't know if folks thought it was like our, second home or something from here, but it just normalized the idea that, hey, you're not in SF or you're not in New York. And that really did help us, one, reach just more investors and to tell our story. And that story resonated with very strongly with people with very high conviction for what we're doing, like at Inspired Capital. They led our last 2 rounds, and that they've been just phenomenal partners to us. And then that has just, they've been able to bring friends of theirs and colleagues of theirs and partners. And certainly, the success we found so far and the traction we found, certainly it attracts folks who are looking for opportunities and looking for sort of what could be, generational and iconic companies. And I think we're on track for that.
Well, and, as you continue to grow, we're talking only a few years here, and then now you've got 50 plus employees and growing almost by the day. I mean, I know you've got more employees today than when you and I first jumped on a phone call a month ago or whatever it was. So there's growth that was expected. But I think, and I'm so fascinated by this in the world today about the remote working, because only about a quarter of your employees are in Columbia.
Yeah.
So you've got people working for you all around the country and even around the world. How have you been able to build a culture early on at a thriving company, a successful, a cool, innovative idea? How have you been able to bring everyone together?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's in my role as the leader, I serve the team. Every day I feel like I'm underserving them, but I serve the team. So our operating model is what we call remote with roots. And so the headquarters of the company are here in Columbia, Missouri. You're right. Amazingly consistent that, as we've scaled the team, the ratio of folks who are here versus remote has always been about, 75, 25, 80, 20, somewhere in there. What it's done is it's been a great equalizer. It's been a great help. It enables people out there to be able to bring their time and talent and work on something that they're passionate about, work on something in terms of like helping people access and afford care. And it essentially is, for us, it's the talent, rather than filtering on zip code, we're able to, find people, who are high conviction, with passion, who want to bring their time and talent, join the team. And it gives people an opportunity to work on something that they love, but not have to leave the place that they live in order for a career. And so, it's been phenomenal. And the best part of my many jobs as CEO, but one of them is that we get to sort of assemble and manage a team of, I think, just standout talent.
And that is where we are in the world right now, and continuing to evolve, continuing to change. It's really been so interesting to watch how that is evolving, and those that have figured out how to build that culture from a distance.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I always say, like, you could sit there and put a keg in your basement or the kitchen of the office and have cool happy hours, which is fun. That doesn't necessarily build culture. Go on, I interrupted you.
Yeah. No. Thank you for that. Thank you for thank you for that. How do we build culture as a team, like being remote? So, pre-pandemic, most of us were here. There was only a handful of us. There were like six of us, right? And we're all right here in Columbia, Missouri. We're out, actually all just sitting out here in the office here. And so, with the pandemic, though we were founded in 2018, I really think that we were like forged in 2020. And since, that's when we really sort of found our stride and found, success out there in the world. And we've grown a remote team. What we do is we have different sort of practices that I think are, kind of strong in that, we do our like all hands every Monday, but in order to try to inculcate sort of people into the company, in order to try to like build culture, we do things like every other Friday, we do like a small group Zoom session where we bring everybody in the company onto Zoom. And then Zoom has this kind of cool feature called Breakout Rooms where you can break people out into rooms of 2 or 3 or 4 people. And then we like serve up a discussion question kind of designed to get a little bit below news, weather, and sports and give people opportunity to just talk about, their lives. What are they doing personally and professionally? Gosh, I'm working on something. So like Joel, the computer programmer, may not always get to talk to, Joel, the, employer account manager. And so we just foster connections there between folks and kind of enable sort of relationship building so that when we bring everybody together every 6 months at our summit, like they already have some basis of a relationship that we just use the office to kind of, the times that we do gather to kind of deepen that relationship and kind of get it down to, just fostering a sense of like professional intimacy, so to speak.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen that and the power of that even in person. I mean, I've done workshops and worked with different organizations where suddenly, whether it's in person or virtually, you pair up 2 people or put together 3 people that are in different departments and doing different things with the simple question of how can we better help each other? How can I better understand what you do? And it's just amazing that they don't know often because they haven't needed to.
Yeah. I mean, like the company very much becomes like who it hires and who it keeps. And so, the more that we invest in our people, the more that the company is the people. It reflects the people you hire, reflects the people that you retain. And so the more that we invest in them, the more that we develop them, the more that we provide an amazing, safe, secure environment for them to be the best versions of themselves, to do their best work. We want Paytient to be an opportunity or place that people can do their life's best work with folks that they that challenge them, that give you an opportunity to work at like a level above maybe what you're striving for. And so I think that's the kind of sort of culture that we've been fortunate to find talented people who want to play on that team.
Let's get to my baseball themed questions. The first one is the home run, which you may have already answered or maybe not. I'll leave that one to you. But what is the biggest home run that you have hit professionally?
I think for me, it's assembling and kind of general managing the team here of talented folks at Paytient. I think that it's still early, but I mean, I think the ball is still flying up and to the right. But from where I'm standing, like I think it's going deep, and I'm really happy about what that means for our employers and partners and providers and employees and investors. So we're trying to help people access support care. It's a plenty big enough opportunity for plenty of companies, and we're one of those that I think we're well positioned to help a lot of people and employers.
Second question, as far as baseball theme, the swing and the miss. What's the biggest swing and miss that you have had, and what did you learn from it?
I think not recognizing it's a good question. I think for Dale and I, we when we started our first company, Like we were in the right place. You asked her like, hey, were there the right signals? We saw them. Joel, like we were right, and like that bet hit. It's just we didn't bet enough. Like we didn't go all in on that bet when we should have, and that's probably our biggest swing and a miss. That bet paid off and it was great, but gosh, it could have been game changing, championship winning. And so what we did was this time realize that, hey, again, like if you bet early and you see that hand's a winner, or at least you think it is, try to go all in. And so for us, that meant, you know, building a team of really talented people in order for us to kind of put our arms around the opportunity.
Final baseball theme question, small ball. That's what I wrote my book on, the little things that add up to the big results. What is small ball to you?
Oh, maybe two things. One, it's realizing that, I think, as I've gotten older, my only real talent is that, knowing I'm not particularly talented. Like and so that means that when I need to do big things or hard things or accomplish things out there in the world, I've got to team up with people that are far better than I am. And so, that's what I think that's what I do best. And so, I think just being genuinely interested in other people and find a great place for them, being just constantly asking them questions, trying to learn more about them and what makes them tick and how I can better serve them. I think that's just kind of small ball that just adds up.
I'm going to hit now 4 final questions as we round the bases, some fun things, some more serious, but we'll start with this. I mean, you say you didn't have any talents, but if you have kayaked from Kansas City to St. Louis, I know some other people that have done that via the Missouri River. It's 340 miles.
How dumb I am, Joel. Like, why would somebody do that?
I know a lot of people that have done that, and almost all of them are successful, and that drive usually translates into the success that they're having in real life too.
Right.
I can think of a better way to spend my time, but that's just because I'm lazy in terms of I wouldn't be able to survive that. But tell me about that journey or journeys.
Oh man, if you find 3, 4, 5 days, do it. It's when I did it, it was they have this race. They still do it. It's called the MR 340, but Missouri River 340, and I did it twice, and it was like just a awesome experience, just incredible experience out there. You get 88 hours to go from Kansas City to St. Louis in a kayak or a canoe, and it borders on a spiritual journey. It's a fantastic way to see the state, and you're just out there, by yourself or with family or friends, just paddling along. And my fingernails fell off, but it was worth it.
You do it again or no?
I did it twice. I would like to do it again. I
Okay.
will. Maybe when this is all over, that can be my treat.
Again, I can think of better treats, but actually a very cool way to see the state and obviously to be active and have that kind of goal. Second question, that you're no superhero. Here's a segue. You're no superhero for doing that, just maybe a little bit crazy, but I do understand that you have a favorite Marvel character, and I'm curious about Star-Lord and why him. I like all the we watched every Marvel movie during the pandemic before the kids started trying to bust out of the house again, which was fun. Although they'd say that I didn't pay attention as much as they did. But why Star-Lord?
He's from Missouri, man. Peter Quill. Yeah. He's in. I think that was in Guardians of the Galaxy. Awesome movies. Love them. And when they zoomed in on his Missouri, I was like, oh, it's got to be that guy.
All right, I like that, and he could do the kayak easily. Those guys could. That just they'll knock that one out. But that's what superheroes and Marvel characters do. Third question, we'll go a little bit more seriously here. Talk some business on the website Paytient.com. A little bit of an infomercial here for you, but it looks really easy to use too. And I'm just curious how that process works. The feedback that you've had.
Feedback's great. So what Paytient is it's an app. So employers subscribe to us. So easy subscription for an employer, pay us a few bucks per employee per month. Every one of their employees can download the Paytient app. and use it to pay for care. So we created an app. There's a virtual Visa card in there. We Paytient put dollars on the card. They're not the employer dollars, they're ours. And we give every one of their employees the ability to pay for out-of-pocket medical, dental, vision, pharmacy, even veterinary care, and turn unexpected out-of-pocket expenses into planned, manageable, and free, interest-free payment plans. So we take the stress out of paying for healthcare, and people love it.
Well, that's because it is a very stressful industry
Yeah.
traditionally for most of us users. Paytient.com, Paytient. It'll be in the show notes as well. Final question, the walk-off. I love asking this to successful entrepreneurs that have been able to raise that capital and are having that success. I've never met one that isn't thinking about other things, bigger picture, next step. I'm not asking you to commit to a next step at this point, but do you have a long-term thought process with Paytient or where you want to see yourself or the company in, say, 10 years?
Oh, I think in 10 years, yeah. I think very clearly we're it's a felt need. It's a privileged position to be in to help people better access afford care. Our focus right now is just helping millions of people to do that and to take the stress out of paying for healthcare. I think if we do that well, it opens the door for us to help people not just pay for care, but to actually buy care. And I think that's when things get really, really interesting, and we can sort of bring patients and providers together in a way that maybe the world hasn't seen yet.
It's great stuff. A lot of early success, although it in some way or another, I know has been in the works for years and years with all of your other experiences, and so I'm excited for you guys. It's been great to be able to connect with you. I know we'll do so more in the future as well. But Brian, really appreciate you spending time on Rounding the Bases. Again, the website is Paytient.com, Paytient. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the year, a great holidays, and really enjoyed the visit.
Thank you, Joel.